10.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Warzone Nachman Grand Tournament book review. This is a look at the new chapter approved Warhammer 40,000 season mission pack. Exactly, that's a competitive mission pack for Warhammer 40,000. Today we're going to be going through how to set up a game. We're going to go through some of the missions and some of the changes that have happened from the last mission pack to this mission pack. So hello, welcome. I'm Skari, your grateful host. This is going to be a quick, dirty breakdown. We're going to go over mainly the Strike Force missions. So this is like going to be how to set up. We're going to go to the new secondaries. We're going to talk about them individually. We're going to answer questions in chat for anybody who is out there hanging out. Good morning, welcome. I know it's a good time. It's a good time to be a 40k player, and these new seasons are very interesting. Thank you very much to Games Workshop to sending me one of these for free so I could review it. We also have the new point values as well from the Minotaur Field Manual. It's a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to be going through. Got my coffee, got my water, and I got my new setup. As you can see, this green screen seems to be working. Good. If it doesn't work, then just let me know. Show me like a floating head. It's exciting. And all that good stuff. Well, let's begin, shall we? Because I'm super pumped about this. But hello, welcome. Okay, let's dive in. Warzone Nachman. Very interesting name, of course. We have the introduction. Ta-da! Battle ready. So for anybody who doesn't know, Games Workshop has sort of like a standard for battle-ready armies, which means, you know, if you want to paint your stuff and you're wondering how painted is painted, Games Workshop has sort of like a little format for you, so you can kind of see what the painted expectation is. It's nothing like too fancy. It's like a couple colors, maybe a wash or so, or custom contrast, and you're good to go. So, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating, right? The green screen is nice. This Emperor's Amp. Thank you. Appreciate it. I still need to adjust some of the settings because you can kind of tell that I have it up. But I'm going to. I have to just adjust the settings, but that's okay. I will. Plus, there's a lot of bottom light up. All this good stuff. Okay, so let's dive in. So how do we set up a game of Warhammer 40,000? Warzone Nachman. I don't even know if that's how you say it. Warzone Nachman Grand Tournament games. Number 1, select the battle size. Cool. We'll be focusing mainly on Strike Force today. Then you muster your armies. So you have 2,000 points to play with at Strike Force, 1,000 points, 12 command points. Pretty much here, this is about the same. Now, in Muster Your Army, there has been change, which is very interesting. Well, first of all, you have to have a warlord. You cannot include any understrength units, and you cannot include any specialist detachments, which is only a reference to Vigilus, which was like a campaign book, which is funny because specialist detachment is essentially what the new Army of Renowns are, in a way, except you're not allowed specialist detachments from 8th edition. But if you wanted to play with specialist detachments in your friendly games, go right ahead. We have a campaign going on within our friends. Like a couple of friends in the game group, like John the Cron and them. And we've been using specialist attachments, so go right ahead, right? Good morning, Colin. How's it going? Sam says, good morning, you beautiful man. Hey, Sam, what's going on? Thanks for all you do for the community. Well, thank you for the lovely comment. So all of the units in each detachment in a player's army must have at least one faction keyword in common. And you cannot use Chaos, Imperium, Eldari, Inari, or Tyranids. So you have to basically use one keyword in common, which and fortifications have no effect on that, so you can kind of add fortifications at your leisure. And they did add a really cool thing for fortifications to make sure you can actually use fortifications more often or more frequently without getting completely effed about not being able to fit a fortification. All of the units in a player's army that have a faction keyword that is selectable in brackets must have the same keyword. So this is a selectable keyword, not like special characters that have a set keyword that they can't select, because then they can kind of be added into them, or they're mercenaries like the Silent King, for example, for Necrons that can be in any sort of army. But it's, so for example, all units, this is a huge change by the way, all units with chapter must have the same chapter. So if I'm playing a Black Templar army, every unit in my army that can select Black Templars has to try and select Black Templars. Now don't forget, this is for competitive play. This means that every Tyranid model in a Tyranid army has to select the same Hive Fleet, which is huge. It means you can no longer mix in a competitive army, at least for this season. Remember, GW has said that seasons are going to be 6 months. So for the next 6 months, right? We don't know if this will change, but for the next 6 months at least, the way that they've envisioned competitive 40k is that you can only have one Hive Fleet, or you can only have one Forge World if you're doing Adeptus Mechanicus. No more mixing like Lucius and Mars, right? You just have to do all Lucius, all Mars. That's massive. Like, no more mixing 2 different cabals in your army. You can't have Dark Technomonsters and Artists of Flesh. You have to pick one or the other. You can't have Witch Cult of Strife and Red Grief. You need one or the other. You can no longer have Master the Blackheart and Obsidian Rose or Poison Tongue. No, pick one cabal, because that's all the selectable keyword. That's huge. Like, list building has suddenly been like completely changed to mean that if you have like many things you can pick from, you sort of have to pick one thing. And I understand it from a competitive gameplay standpoint because it's less confusing. You walk up to a table, you start setting up with the opponent. They have models and stuff that are all different colors or whatever, and and they're all one thing now. So it's less confusing. You don't have to worry about the interaction or sort of like the interlocking of lots of different crazy stratagems, or warlord traits or whatever. It's like, no, you're playing with this, you're playing with this. But then it also brings up armies that are super flexible. Like, for example, the Death Watch kill team list, right? That is like, can pick and choose like a chapter tactic to use, like from any Space Marine chapter as you play the Army of Renown Death Watch. That makes them super flexible, right? So it's very appealing with this kind of like rule set. Don't mind my lovely mug. Oh look, my mug is green enough. That's cool. It's green screened. Eduardo Paredes says, time to paint while listening to the chapter proof changes. Absolutely. I hope you're ready to rock and roll. Well, that's very big. So the quote marker chaos and allegiance keywords can be different for different units in a player's army. So like you can mix demon stuff in there. Cool. The Dreadblade and Freeblade keywords can have different selectable faction keywords. So if running like Dreadblade, you can mix in different Dreadblades and Freeblades, which makes sense from a army list building point. Now, if you have a super heavy auxiliary attachment, you can change your command benefits to one of them for +2 command points. So a super heavy auxiliary attachment can be essentially cost you 1 command point instead of 3. If it matches your warlord's faction, but that faction is not Chaos, Imperium, Eldari, Inari, or Tyranids. Which means Necrons, Tau? Is that it? Necrons and Tau get like a special super heavy auxiliary for like cheap. But not Chaos, not Imperium, not Indari, not Inari or Tyranids, which is, sad. Yep. Well, there you go. Dedicated transports is the rule of 3 right here. You can only have 3 of each thing, as long as it's or except for troops or dedicated transports, or 2 if you're playing a smaller game. But we're talking strike force here. Don't waste your time with incursion competitively. What are you doing? It means we're bringing super heavy auxiliary in. Get CP. Yes, yes, but only if you're not Chaos, Imperium, Eldari, and Ari or Tyranids, right? So, Oh, you get CP. Okay, I get it. So it changed from -3 CP to +2 CP. Well, that's cool. That means you gain 2 CP, so you're encouraged to take a super heavy that doesn't benefit from any of your rules. Excellent. Nice. Change the command. Oh, no. It says change the command benefits. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like it. Good morning, says JC Wolf. I'm in a mix of Warhammer stuff right now, painting Blades of Corn while listening to you go over the new 40k rules. Good times, nice. Blades of Corn are a really fun faction. I just had we did a list crunch for the Patreons last night, and Jared, one of the Patreons, submitted a Blades of Corn list. It was really cool to go over that. You know, the more I've been playing Age of Sigmar, the more fun it has been to go over Age of Sigmar stuff. If you're going to use any stratagems to upgrade your stuff before the battle, you have to use them in this muster army step. And then you have to give your opponent a copy of your roster. Cool. Then we determine the mission. So, of course, there are 9 incursion missions and 9 strike force missions. We're going to be focusing on the new strike force missions when we break them down. So that'll be the 9 there. Recover the relics. Tear down their icons. Data scry salvage, abandoned sanctuaries, conversion, the scouring. Ugh. Even just reading that name competitively sends shivers down my spine. Tide of conviction, death and zeal, secure missing artifacts. Now they had previewed recover the relics and secure missing artifacts, so we have seen those missions before. Maybe a Baneblade will be brought if its points are dropped. I hope we can see those later, my friend. Yeah, well, I've got the points right here. So, you know, if you have any questions specifically, we'll go over that after. I'm definitely not going to be going line by line for points, but because there will be resources out there that will have gone line by line, and there will be cool Excel sheets that will literally break it down and give you pluses and minuses. I'm not doing that. as much as I would love to go line by line, that's I'll let somebody else do that. Okay, I'll talk about the missions and the secondaries. Although we are going to go into a bit of a, I'll probably go into the implications of the changes in a little bit of detail, and then of course give you my opinion, what I think. Maybe we should have a tier list, right, of what secondaries are and stuff. That'd be cool. Okay. Read the mission briefing. Of course, if you don't read the mission briefing, who does that? In competitive play. It's place objective markers. Okay? Create the battlefields. Technically, put terrain down after you put the objective markers down. It says it still recommends to use the piece of terrain that you have in the Warhammer rulebook. Sure. And then the size of the table. Minimum size, but everybody uses that size now. Now, this is important to note, and a lot of people forget this, especially when it's a player-placed terrain mission or player-placed terrain tournament, but terrain cannot be set up on top of objective markers. Don't forget that the objective marker is a 40 millimeter base, which means the 40 millimeter base in the middle of a giant mouse pad objective marker, which are the ones we normally use, can't have terrain on them. Now, some tournaments make an exception, but that's normally the rule. So don't forget that. When you're going to a tournament and it's player-placed terrain, and somebody puts objective terrain right in the middle of an objective or right up against an objective middle, can't do that. Don't let them. It's in the rules. Delicious coffee. Then you determine the attacker or defender. and the defender selects a deployment zone, right? So cool, you do that, set up, the terrains will set up, whatever. Roll for attack a defender, and the defender chooses deployment zone. Technically, after creating the battlefield, so that you want to make sure that the battlefield is even or whatever. But a lot of the times in a tournament, they'll actually get you to know which is your table half before you start setting up terrain. If you have like player placed terrain, yeah. Then you select your secondary objectives secretly. Don't forget, competitively, you write them down secretly and then share them with your opponent at the same time. A lot of people don't do that. They just kind of like fire it off one at a time. I never understood that. Then we have declare reserves and transports, which is technically also secretly. You're supposed to put what's in what transport, how many CP you're using for strategic reserves, if you're using like deep strike abilities or like stuff like that. And then you're supposed to reveal it to your opponent at the same time. Now, don't forget that no more than half your units can be in strategic reserve and reinforcements, and that the combined points of all reserves and reinforcements, including ones in transports, must be less than half of the total point value. So if I have 10 units and 2,000 points, I can put a max of 5 units in reserve. 5 of them have to be on the board, but then I also have to make sure I have more than 1,000 points on the board. Right, so it's half your points have to be on the table, half your units, more than half your points, and half your units have to be on the table as well. Now, there's ways to put stuff in reserve after, so like stratagems and things that let you redeploy or things like that. You can put them in reserve after that. That's always something that you can do, but just something to keep in mind. It's funny because I've built lists where you spend pre-game command points, you deploy half your units on the table and half your points, and then they can all disappear and go back into reserve. It's so funny. It was mainly with a Tantalus and a bunch of Grotesques, but you can't do that anymore since they're not as expensive as they were before. So then you deploy your armies. Now you go back and forth. You deploy one unit at a time, but a player must deploy all their fortifications before putting out the unit. This is where the fortification thing comes into play. So if you have multiple fortifications, who would? But if you did, all the fortifications have to go down at the same time, and then you can go back and forth deploying your units. When setting up a fortification on the battlefield, it cannot be set up within 3 inches of any other terrain feature that is not part of its own datasheet, that's not a hill. So it doesn't matter if it's, like, they don't care about hills. If it's not possible to set up a fortification as a result, a player can remove an obstacle or area terrain feature that's in the deployment zone in order to make room for the fortification. That's a cool change to make sure you can sort of fit like your fortification. However, I can see people abusing the crap out of something like that. Like, oh, I just don't want this building here, so I can have a nice big line of sight at your whole army, or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if, in competitive play, we see people bring fortifications just to be able to remove pieces of terrain. So, I don't know, we'll see. Now, it is only an obstacle or area terrain feature, so like, well, I guess obstacle or area terrain feature, like, it's either or is actually really good. But it also means that, like, I'm looking at, like, my webway gate, going like, you know what, I think I might just take it more often now, because I really enjoy having a webway gate. But what sort of, like, fortification is used? You know, you've got, what, Noctilith crowns for chaos? You've got, what, the Tau is going to be coming out soon. They'll have, like, their Tide Wool, or whatever the heck that Tau one is. Or, what else? A Bastion? Meh, okay, fair enough. I'm curious. I'm just really curious to see what people would bring now that you can kind of fit your fortification. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Like, everybody in chat. What kind of fortification would you bring? A hammerful bunker? Colin says Spore Cysts might see use with this. You know what? Okay, a Spore Cyst I can see. That's a Tyranid fortification. Because they're so big. Yeah, and it also, they took away the whole 3 inches of objectives, I believe. Now it's just 3 inches of terrain, and I don't know if you can put them right on objectives. If you can, then amazing. But that's something that, you know, just kind of plop them on an objective and stop somebody from getting on it or whatever if your fortification's big enough. Is that a thing? I don't know. Now, they also outline here, if a model is so large it cannot physically be set up, they explain, like, if it can't be in your deployment zone and it doesn't fully fit in your deployment zone during deployment, I think there's only a few models that this is the case with, namely, I think the Custodes Orion or whatever in some of the deployment maps, right? You have to set up that unit so it's touching the player's battlefield edge, and in the first battle round, it cannot move, advance, fall back, manifest, deny psychic powers, make any attacks with ranged weapons, declare charge, perform heroic interventions, or do any actions. And it counts as moving its movement if it has a minimum move characteristic. Which, okay, so if you have a unit that's so big it doesn't fit in your deployment, the first turn it has to sit there and do nothing. So, cool. It's like you have to bring it in reserve, but it has to be on the table. Okay, interesting. I play Necron, so maybe my converges the 3 stone slabs as Emperor's Amp. Okay, cool. You know, they're... I don't even know what they do. You teleport to them and stuff, can't you? Lycandrus says I would bring my drill if they hadn't removed it. Yeah, sadly they did take the drill away. Sporcist counting as 12 models in a Crusher Stampede, LOL. Oh, yes. And it would have an invul, wouldn't it? Well, no, because if it's... You'd have to bring a network if you want the... Oh, no. No. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm pretty sure. Like, I know that fortification networks or fortification... No, fortification networks, they do. I don't think they gain any sort of, like, command benefit, though. They don't get... If you have any traits, I don't think they gain them from, like, your chapter, but you lose all of those with Crusher Stampede, don't you? Interesting. Definitely not a Hammerfall bunker. I've yet to see them be effective and not worth the point cost. Hey, I have a Hammerfall bunker that I haven't built or painted yet, but I'm thinking it would be cool to use with my Black Templars, because Black Templars, you know, sound like the kind of chapter that would totally run a Hammerfall bunker. Space Marine hype, boys! 45% win rate is going to 46. Emperor says maybe it will, you never know. It has a monster keyword, so Spore Space would gain it, says Jacob. Yeah, I could definitely see that. And High Fleet. Well, yes, that's true, but fortifications never gain any sort of, like, chapter trait. That's just in the thing, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. In the, like, main rulebook. Anyway, let's move on. Then you roll for first turn. Winner has to take the first turn. That hasn't changed. Then you do your pre-battle abilities. During deploy, it says if both players have abilities that allow them to be set up after both have deployed, etc., etc., you have to alternate with those. But then you do pre-battle abilities, so stratagems that are used before the battle. It includes those that upgrade their units, or those that enable them to set up a unit in a location other than the battlefield, or pre-game movements, or things like that. Usually happens here. Begin the battle, ending the battle, and determine the victor with more points. You can get a max of 45 primary points. You get a max of 45 secondary points for 90 points in total. And then you get 10 points if your army's battle ready or sort of painted. So you can up to 100 points every time you play a game of Warhammer 40,000. Excellent. 6 a.m. rules reading, you mad lad, says Minis by Smiz. Yeah, well technically it was supposed to be, I believe, at 5 a.m. and I looked at my watch because my alarm had been going off and I couldn't understand why my alarm kept on going off. And I kept on pushing snooze. And I was like, snooze, snooze, snooze. Snooze. That was the whole thing. And yeah, so there you have it. There you have it, you know. I've and then I woke up, I was like, oh no, I'm late. And I was sad because I wanted to be up at 5, but I was not up at 5. Sad face. I'm just tiring, okay? It's tiring. Good thing I didn't have guests today lined up, waiting for me for an hour. That's why Harridan gets the Crush Stampede bonus, even though Super Heavy Oaks attachments don't. Oh, cool. Fortification items don't get self-action trait, but the Crusher benefits, yeah. So they get the Crusher Stampede stuff, yeah. They just don't get traits, sub-faction traits. You gotta do what you gotta do. Hey, Welton Spiel, what's going on? Thanks for coming and hang out. Okay. So they did kind of, I like that they put this in, conceding or early victory. So if both players want to not play, they can just choose to not play and just, well, let's both end the game, and then they count their points, and that's it. Which, for competitive play, is like collusion in a way. Let's just stop here, shall we? But if only one person wants to finish playing, and the other one wants to concede, the person who concedes gets 0 points, and then the other person continues to play and gain points, right, up to a maximum. However, they did say if their score is less than 60, they get 60 points. So I like that because it adds a precedent for tournament buys. So if you go to a tournament and you sit out a game because there's not an opponent or there's an uneven number of players, a little RTT, they've set up like a hey, there's 60 points plus 10, so 70 with your battle standard if your opponent isn't there. So it's a minimum. I like that. I like that they've set a minimum point value for that. As a tournament organizer, that's useful for me. And then you have your mission objectives. Ta-da! Okay, let's dive in to the Nachman secondary objectives. Now, of course, there are a lot of secondaries, including all of the ones for each of the factions, right? There's tons of secondary objectives, and picking secondary objectives in Warhammer 40,000 is sort of like, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, the easier it becomes, but it can be overwhelming, right? And a lot of times people win or lose based on what secondaries they pick, right? It's one of the things, I try and encourage is do like, remove the ones that you can't do at all, and then pick the lesser of two evils based on how you're going to play the game in a lot of scenarios. Jacob says, or in leagues, especially with TTS, it's a good guideline. Right? Right? It is. It's a great guideline for buys. Okay, let's go into the secondary objective. So, when selecting secondary objectives, you must select 3. No less than 3, and the number shall be 3. There must 2 of them have to be selected from the ones in this book. If a secondary objective has a keyword in brackets next to its title, players can only select that secondary objective if every model from their army, excluding unaligned models, has that faction keyword. Yes, that's right. You heard it here first. Well, maybe not first, but you heard it here. A lot of armies that don't have a codex yet got a secondary choice in this book, like Astra Militarum, or Tyranids, or Chaos Space Marines, which is nice of Games Workshop to put something in this book specifically to hold them off until they get a codex. Now, are they the best and the most, amazing secondaries? No, but it's nice that they have choices, if that makes sense, right? So, John Chavez says 5 is right out. Thank you for continuing the reference to Monty Python. The Holy Grail. That's right. What is your favorite secondary? What is the average speed of a Baneblade going down a hill? That's just modifying it. Okay, so we have, so each secondary, of course, has a category. So when you're playing competitive games, you can only pick 1 from each category. And the biggest thing here is you have to pick 2 from this book. So if you have a codex and a supplement, for example, and the codex has secondaries and the supplement has secondaries, like Space Marines. Space Marines have secondaries in the Space Marine book, and then secondaries in the supplements, like Black Templars and Blood Angels and Space Wolves, for example, and Dark Angels. You cannot pick 2 secondaries from those books. You can only pick 1, and then 2 of them have to be from here. I like that change. I think it means that for some armies, it's going to be harder to pick some secondaries when it used to be easy, like Dark Angels. It used to be really easy to be like, I'm going to pick Oath of Moment, or Oath of Moment, and I'm going to pick Stubborn Defiance, and then you'd literally like sit on 2 objectives and hit in the middle of the board with your big Terminator blob and score like 100 points. No longer. Mr. Chin says, "Hey Skari, for my orcs, now I can only pick 1 clan now." Yeah, so that's how that works. You can only pick 1 clan when you're building your army, right? So you're going to have to pick a clan. Oh, any clan, but pick 1 clan. Things like Gazgul, special characters, stuff that like can't pick a clan, they can go in anything, but they have special rules to be included in like any detachment as well. Okay, let's go through these. Assassination. You pick it, you get 3 points for every character you kill, an extra point for the warlord kill. That's pretty straightforward. For the Emperor is a new Astra Militarum secondary. You score 1 point at the end of the battle round for each enemy unit that was destroyed by an Astra Militarum unit to a max of 3 per battle round. So this is essentially kill points. Kill things with Astra Militarum, get points. It's not terrible. Bring it down. You get 1 point for every monster or vehicle you kill with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less. You get 2 points for a monster or vehicle with a wounds characteristic of 10 and 14. And you get 3 points for each enemy monster or vehicle with a wounds characteristic of 15 or more that you kill. Very good if somebody brings like a bunch of Talos or a bunch of little Venoms or Raiders, or like it's a useful one to have. Titan Killer or Hunter. 4 points for killing a Titanic model, 9 points for killing 2, 15 for killing 3. A lot harder than it seems, especially in a competitive play. CMDR says, "Easy, Mr. 70-something% win rate. Don't worry about our stubborn oath combo." Can you see the the like flashlight in my eyes from underneath here? That movement value top of the bracket. What do you mean, regular Valkyrie or Valkyrie Vendetta? Exactly, regular Valkyrie or Valkyrie Vendetta. No mercy, no respite, no prisoners. So this one's really cool. You get a point for every 10 wounds you've done to non-vehicle monster characters killed throughout the course of the game, and you round it down. So models have multiple wounds over the course of the game will give you points. Space Marines have multiple wounds. Necrons resurrect, so you can count them multiple times. Scarabs have multiple wounds, that sort of thing. This is a very good one against Necrons, by the way. And then you get bonus points if you get 50 or 100 more. So if you get 50, you get +1 bonus point. If you get 100, you get +2 bonus points. So it's just killing things that have multiple wounds. Okay, that one's important there. Grind them down. Kill more than your opponent kills of you. Great if you're a tough army at the end of the battle round. To the last, pick your 3 most expensive units and 3 most expensive units, and you get 5 points for each one of them that's still alive at the end of the game. Pretty standard stuff. If you pick something that splits, and the opponent kills one of those splitting units, then you lose 2 points. So it's then only 3. So things like things that split up, like combat squads and stuff like that, changes. Relentless and Oath, my bread and butter, says Sam. How could they, Ridvan? I know, Sam. I know. You're a Blood Angel player. You won a GT off the back of being able to pick good secondaries for that GT. So, now you're going to have to think outside the box there, mister. And by think outside the box, I mean just practice for something else. You'll be fine. Plus, there are no more mission secondaries. And that's something huge. Like, missions don't have secondaries attached to them anymore. That's massive, because some play, like a lot of people took like the secondary for that mission every time because it was just so good. Now the secondaries for the missions have turned into separate ways of scoring primary on the mission, which changes, right? So Path of Destruction. This is Chaos Knights, so they got a secondary. So kill an enemy unit with a knight that's wholly within your deployment zone for a point. Kill a unit with a knight that's 3 inches away from any deployment zone for a point, so no man's land. Kill an enemy unit with a knight that's wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. So kill stuff with knights in different places to get points. Sure, Chaos Knights like killing things. You know, is it good? Who knows? Time will tell. Cough. Priority target. Cough. Exactly. That was one of them that people took all the time. Synaptic Insight. Tyranids. So this is an interesting Tyranid one. If you select this objective, keep a synaptic kill tally. Reset this tally to 0 at the start of each battle round. So it's a battle round thing. Each time an enemy model is destroyed by a synapse model from your army, if that enemy had a wounds characteristic between 3 and 5, you add 1 to your kill tally. If it had a wound characteristic between 6 and 9, add 2 to the kill tally. If it had a wound characteristic of 10 or more, add 3 to the tally. And this is per model killed. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round if your kill tally is 4 or more, and you cannot score more than 12 victory points from this objective. I like that one. I think it's actually quite good. Just kill stuff with like your Hive Tyrants, you know, or it's any Synapse model. You know, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of Synapse models out there that are pretty good at killing models, like Zoanthropes and stuff. The Longboard, Chaos Space Marines. I played against this the other day. It was pretty cool. I liked it. So at the end of your turn, you score 1 point for each enemy unit that was within range of an objective marker at the start of that turn that was destroyed by a Heretic Astartes unit from your army. So get 1 point for each enemy unit that was within range of an objective marker that you killed that turn. So if they're on a, which is great, you want to clear objectives anyway. At the end of your turn, you score 2 points if you control one or more objectives that were controlled by your opponent at the start of that turn, and a Heretic Astartes unit is within range of one or more of those objective markers, and you get 3 points every turn for that. Now, does it give Chaos Space Marines 2 wounds? No. But it is an objective that allows you to play to the mission, which I think is good. Malefic Terror, Chaos Demons. There's a lot of these no mercy ones. It's pretty hefty, if you ask me. Each time an enemy model flees the battlefield, score 1 victory point. Now, this is, of course, when you think of it, and it's like Dark Eldar have a very similar one, and it's never, ever taken. So how useful is that? But the second part makes it okay. Each time an enemy unit is destroyed by an attack made by a Chaos Demons unit from your army. So, killing a unit. Before removing the last model, roll 2d6. If the result equals or exceeds the current leadership characteristic of the enemy model, score a point. So really good against low leadership armies. You cannot score more than 4 from the second objective per turn. So kill a bunch of enemy units with demons that have low leadership, score a bunch of points, make them run away, score some points, but it's 4 maximum per turn. Remember, not battle round, per player turn. So you could do 8 and 8, right? In your opponent's your opponent's turn and in your turn. So you can score max from that. Then we have Warpcraft. These haven't really changed. We have Abhor the Witch, kill Psychers if you don't have any Psychers. Warp Ritual, get into the middle of the table and do a psychic action. There's Warp Charge 3. That might have changed. And you can get 12 points for that. Pierce the Veil, super hard to do. So you have to do this action during the psychic phase if you're within 6 inches of your opponent's battlefield edge and more than 6 inches from enemy models. Sure, it's Warp Charge 4. So it's either 8 points or 15 points. So if you do it twice or you do it 4 times. You know. Some armies can do this, but I've never seen it really done effectively. And then Psychic Interrogation, they changed this. So this is a psychic action. You get 3 points if a Psyker does it. A psychic character has to do it, and they have to be within 24 inches of another character. And that's it. You don't need a line of sight. It's 24 inches. This went from poop to quite good if your opponent can't deny it. Goes off on a 4, and if you just do it and there's an enemy character within 24, you just get 3 points. It's quite easy to do. I've used it with my Eldar. They were really sneaky. It was really fun. because you don't need line of sight for this anymore, which is good. Then we have shadow operations. Raise the banners high. Same thing as before. Put banners up on objectives and get points for banners. Investigate signal. This one changed. So a unit from your army that contains 3 or more models, an infantry unit from your army that contains 3 or more models, can start this action at the end of your movement phase if they are wholly within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. Then you complete it at the end of your player turn, provided you're still wholly within 6 inches, and there are no enemy units wholly within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. So it seems like a really easy one to do until you play someone that doesn't let you get within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield to start the action in the first place. And then you have a little tear like this go down your face. Ah, tear. Then we have Retrieve Nachman data, which is essentially your Retrieve Octeris data from the previous GT pack. Now you have to do it with Infantry Biker, not just like Infantry. But you have to roll under the number of models, equal to or under the number of models after completing the action. And you can still only score 12, but you can fail it now if you have units that are smaller. In my opinion, it's like so risky to take this now. It used to be an auto take for like Eldar, Drukhari, like, you know, you can't do it with single models anymore. You can, but it's like nigh impossible to complete. So very hard to do that one. And then my new favorite, Teleport Homers. So you do this if you're wholly within 12 inches of your opponent's deployment zone. And you get 2 points at every command phase. Or if you do it with a troop unit, it happens at the end of your player turn. And you get 4 points if you do it wholly in your opponent's deployment zone. Amazing. If you have lots of little troops that you can throw away, this is amazing. It's so good. I recommend it every time. And then we have our Battlefield Supremacy. You know, let me know which is your favorite secondary change in the chat. Behind enemy lines, so this is pretty much the same. Put units in your opponent's deployment zone. That always works nicely. Engage on all fronts. Now you need to have units of 3 or more models, vehicles, or monsters. So it's now like categorized to units. So you can't have single model units do this anymore, which means later in the game it becomes a lot harder than it was. Like a lot of the times I'd have like a single model get me engage because like their unit had been decimated. But now if you just have single model units, you can't do it anymore. You can't do it with characters either. It has to be a vehicle or monster. Well, if it's a vehicle or monster character, then you're fine. But it's like it's harder to get than it used to be. It's not like an auto take anymore. Then we have Stranglehold, which is probably going to be one of the more popular secondaries for Battlefield Supremacy. Once you see the missions, you'll understand why. Then we have, so it's if you control 3 or more objectives and also control more than your opponent at the end of your player turn, you get 3 points. So you play for objectives. It kind of fits into playing the missions a lot of the way. Windspiel says, I made 3 games, 12 points with Nachman. Which is great. If your army's built for that, amazing. That's good. I've been finding Teleport Homers for me personally has been a good replacement. I've been scoring about an average of 14 points. So 2 extra points than I used to score, which is nice. Yield No Ground is the Imperial Knights one. So at the end of your turn, you score points as follows to a maximum of 5 for each thing that you get. So 2 if you control half or more of the total number of objectives on the battlefield, and knights are on them. Okay, so excellent. 2 if no enemy units are in your deployment zone. You just get 2 points if no enemy units are in your deployment zone. That's actually kind of cool. You score 1 point as long as no Imperial Knights ended that turn closer to your battlefield edge than they started, and no Imperial Knight units fell back. So up to 5 points. Have basically Stranglehold with Knights, no enemy units in deployment zone, and don't move close to the board edge, and don't fall back. 5 points. So good. That's actually a really good secondary. But it does compete with like good ones, which is Battlefield Supremacy a lot of the time. Good morning, Caliph. What's going on? Thanks for coming by to say hi. Shout out to Caliph. JC Wolf, glad they changed the retrieve data. No longer being just about auto take is not a bad thing. I agree, JC Wolf. I agree. I think auto takes never interesting. Now, as you can tell, see this? That's what I do. I tape it. You know why I tape it? Because nobody cares about incursion missions. No one. And every time I flip it open, I'm like, wait, these aren't Strike Force missions. So I've just taped it. Because nobody cares. If you care, then I'm really sorry. I don't care. I don't care about incursion missions at all. Unless I'm playing Crusade. In which case, I'll play all sorts of missions. Okay, Strike Force. Let's dive in. This is a mission that was previewed by Games Workshop, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Then we have tear down their icons. So as you can see here, the deployment for mission number 2, or mission number 12. So this one is cool. You have player A territory and player B territory. So, and this is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more. There are 5 objectives, therefore there are 3 in the midline, which is really good for Stranglehold. It means you only need to hold 3 for Stranglehold. Like, you can essentially control these 3 objectives by being in this little area here. Really good for Custodies that have a secondary to hold more objectives in No Man's Land, so you can just kind of pop onto those 2 there. And of course the weird deployment that goes up like this, which I like this deployment. Like, I'm a fan of this deployment. So in this game, the bonus point is to do an action inside of your opponent's territory with units. So 1 unit from your army can start to perform this action at the end of your movement phase if it's wholly within your opponent's territory and is more than 9 inches away from any other marker that you put down with the action. If the action has objectives secured, or a similar rule, you complete at the end of your turn, otherwise it takes a whole battle round. So, objectives secured being important to score these secondary points, or these primary bonus points. For each time you do the action, so you get 3 points at the end of the game. You can also do, and they have to be in your opponent's territory. You can also do the diffuse explosive action, which is go to an opponent's one that they put down, like you put a marker down when you're done. You take it away, and then you remove 3 points from them. So it's interesting. Oh no, you get 4 points for each one. Oh cool, so you can do 3 for an extra 12. Nice. Well, that's neat. Every time you do it, it's like scoring an objective. So, interesting. Kind of forces you to maybe get aggressive into your opponent's side. Get some bonus points. You know, it's actions-wise. I like it. In my humble opinion, says John Chavis, they should have different detachments for incursion versus strike force. Yeah, you know, we'll see. Yeah, it makes sense. Like, you can only have, like, 2 of a unit or whatever. Like, you only have, it's like a rule of 2, right? When you're doing incursion missions. Other than strike force, then you can have rule of 3 kick in. You know, that sort of thing. So that's this mission. Cool. Mission 13. This is Data Scry Salvage, which I believe used to be the old Vital Intelligence. So you've got, of course, this kind of deployment. It's a little different than the other one. So it is hold 2, hold 3, hold more. So this one is still going to be very hard to score victory points on. This was always a very intense mission for scoring primary. However, the bonus primary is a lot easier to score, like than the secondary used to be. So any unit can do this, can start the data intercept action within range of your home objective marker in your deployment zone. So you start the action in your deployment zone, and it's completed at the end of your turn. You could get a Rhino to do this action. You get like some random unit that you don't care about to do an action, and you complete, every time you complete the action, you score a number of points equal to the number of markers you currently control that are in No Man's Land to a max of 3. So if you go in and you score primary bonus points if you control 3 or more at the end of your player turn, which actually really helps because a lot of the times this mission, you keep on pushing each other off the middle, and then it's hard to score primary points unless you're like past the halfway line, which is interesting. Now, data terminals is sticky objectives. Right? So in this mission, if you hold an objective, it stays yours for the rest of the game. However, one of the big changes for sticky objectives is you can only sticky objective it if it's controlled by an objective secured unit at the start of your command phase. Then it continues to be yours. Which means, like mandrakes, for example, can't sticky anymore. But anything that's like a troop, like Space Marines, like infiltrators, right, or Eldar Rangers, for example, anything that pre-game deploys and get on the objectives, if they're objective secured, then they'll be sticky, which is actually really massive. It's a big change. It's subtle. It's a big change when you're trying to make sure that you can hold these objectives sticky, even throughout the course of the game. Just holding it with something doesn't automatically give it to you for the rest of the game. You have to hold it with objective secured. Yeah, which means like stratagems that make a unit objective secured, right, could be really, really useful. Like the Black Templar one, I can like put it on a core unit, boom, objective secured on these bikers over here or something. All of a sudden they can now move away from that objective, and it is mine for the rest of the game until my opponent takes it away. My Gretchen could actually be useful, says Felix. Of course, Gretchen are always useful. Gretchen are one of those things where they will win you the game. You know what I mean? Right, but that's a big change when it comes to like, it's a big change in my opinion, right? Okay, so that's the old Vital Intelligence. Then we go to Abandoned Sanctuaries. So this one is, right, you've got 5 objectives again. So now, once again, you've got, like, Stranglehold becomes a very good secondary take. You've got 3 objectives down the middle. Custodians like jumping into these 2 objectives in the middle. And it's a lot easier for them to score points. Now, this mission is probably one of the most interesting missions for me, because it has a special rule called No Man's Land. If a unit has a rule that allows it to be set up anywhere on the table in No Man's Land, you cannot pre-deploy anywhere in No Man's Land, and you cannot pre-game move anywhere in No Man's Land, which means you have to stay in your deployment zone. There's no forward deployment, there's no forward movement before the game begins. And that is massive. That is massive. That is so big. It means you can like move in your deployment zone, but you can't go into the deployment zone. So armies that have like a lot of forward pressure units are not going to be able to use those abilities in this mission. And I love that there's a mission that takes that away from armies. You can't pre-game move your Necrons up into the middle of the board. You can't have your, Adeptus Mechanicus horses like jump up into the middle of the board. You can't pre-game deploy all your Invictor tactical war suits and stuff to like put a high pressure on your opponent. It's interesting. I like that a lot, actually. Many of these changes seem to favor troop units, says Eduardo. Yes, it does. I feel like Games Workshop is encouraging you to take troops and stuff with objectives secured, to do actions, to complete mission objectives. So in a way, they're sort of encouraging as well the battalion detachment, right? That has a lot of them as well. Got to bring snacks, even if they might run away before you get peckish. Yeah, the Gretchen, 100%. Cries in assembling 30 Atlan Jackals. Yeah, that's right, Colin. You stay in your deployment zone. So yeah, same with like Genesteal Cult, like the pre-game move after coming out of a blip or whatever. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so this is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more mission. And the bonus point here is the player whose turn it is scores 2 points if they satisfy at least one of the following conditions. If you control the marker in the center of the battlefield, you get 2 points. If you killed a unit that was within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, you get 2 points. So maximum of 2 points if you either hold the middle or kill something that was on the middle. And at the end of the battle, if whoever controls the middle gets 5 points. So the middle is important in the Abandoned Sanctuaries, and you can't pre-game move or stuff like that as well. Death Skulls might be worth looking at again. My favorite clan paint scheme. All infantry OPSEC might be too good. Yeah, the fact that a lot of these like sticky objectives for OPSEC, or if you do an action and if you're OPSEC, it's faster, that sort of thing. That's actually pretty good to like get points, right? So always something to keep an eye out of. Conversion. So this is now there are 2 objectives that have this deployment. Is it? Or is there just one? Is it just one? I thought there was 2. Yeah, there we go. Death and Zeal, conversion. So there are two different missions that have this. So you've got the 4 objectives, the one in the middle. So 5. Once again, Stranglehold. And for something like Custodes, it's very easy to grab 2 of the objectives in No Man's Land, because apparently that's easy. So the mission rule for this one. A player only receives the Battleforge CP bonus if their warlord is on the battlefield or they're embarked on a transport that is on the battlefield. So as soon as you kill the enemy warlord, they cannot gain their bonus command point. That's actually cool. I love that there's an incentive to try kill the warlord to stop their CP, their CP. That's a massive, if you can kill that warlord early or whatever, or somebody gets really aggressive with their warlord and you kill him, no more CP for you, bonus CP, oh, that can really change the game if you ask me. So it's kind of neat that they have it in here. It is hold 1, hold 2, hold more. And then we have Corrupted Ground. So this is the bonus point. So at the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores 4 points if they control the objective marker in their opponent's deployment zone. So, get the opponents, you get 4 points. 2 points if you control 1 or more objective in No Man's Land, which is No Man's Land. And you lose 1 point if you do not control the objective marker in your own deployment zone. But a player's victory point score can never be less than 0. Cool. And I'm pretty sure that's just for this progressive objective part. Every turn. So, cool. So control some in No Man's Land, get 2 points. Try get the enemies, get 4 points. Take the enemies away, take points away from them from scoring ones in the middle and stuff. Interesting. Neat. The Scouring. Oh, okay. They've changed this mission big time. In a good way. Anybody who doesn't know which mission we're talking about, it's the Scouring. And if you never had to play it at a tournament, then you're lucky. Most tournaments decided not to have this mission happen at all because it was so unbalanced. However, this weekend at Las Vegas Open, I'm going to date this video, by the way, this is mission 6. This is going to be the last mission before it goes into the top bracket at LVO. Things are going to get spicy because this mission is nuts. But let's take a look at the new and improved version of the Scouring. Coffee. Oh, coffee's so good. Even though for some reason it's like cold coffee now. How long have I been doing this? Oh, an hour? Nice. Cheers to that. Okay, the Scouring. So mission rules. You can attempt the following action. So any unit can start to perform this action at the end of your movement phase if you're within range of one of the 5 objective markers. Now this is a hold 1 now. Hold 1, hold 2, hold more. And there's 5 objectives and they're all in No Man's Land. So you kind of you want to get aggressive. The deployment is just your standard hammer and anvil deployment. You cannot start the action if the enemy is within range of the objective marker. And it's completed at the start of your next command phase. So it takes a whole battle round for the action to be completed. And then you can only do the action once on each objective marker. And you get 3 points at the end of the battle for every objective marker you scanned. So if you do it on all 5, you get plus 15 points. If you do it on 2, that's plus 6 points. On average, I found that I was able to do it on 2 of them, usually. Because people get aggressive. Also discourages making melee kamikaze warlords, says John. Yeah, for that other mission. Yeah, melee kamikaze warlords, maybe not so much if you want your command points, right? So that's it. This one being that it's a hold 1 and not a hold 2 means that it's actually playable. Because it used to be a hold 2, hold 3, hold more. So you either, because it was an uneven number of objectives, you either held 3 or held 0, right? And it was either you got 5 points for holding 2 or you got 15 points. There was no 10. It was there was no mid ground. You either scored really high or really low in this mission. So it was nice that they changed it finally. Also, hello everybody in chat. Thanks for coming by. This is the reading of the chapter-approved Nachman data If you have any questions, make sure you post them in the chat. I also have the point changes here. I will go through, there'll be a little Q&A at the end where we'll go through some stuff. But thank you, Games Workshop, for sending me a free copy of the book. And I like doing these reviews. I hope you enjoyed the live reviews. Let me know how much you like it by clicking the thumbs button. That's right. You know how the algorithm works. Also got my green screen working. I need to like tweak it a little bit. Maybe put some more lights on it so that it's not as like fadey. But look at this. That's cool. I'm like a floating head. It's nice. Okay. Then we have mission 31, Tide of Conviction. Now this is a weird one because look at these objectives. Look at these objectives. They're like offset. Isn't that weird? It's like offset objectives. This is a 6 objective mission. You've got one in your deployment zone right in the middle, and then you've got the objective sort of like offset, which is really crazy. Now, the mission special rule here is supply lines. So you only receive the CP bonus at the start of your command phase if you control the objective marker in your deployment zone. So if your opponent contests that little objective marker that you have that's literally right on the edge of your deployment zone, you're gonna lose your command point, which actually is really interesting. I love that you can stop people from getting their command point now by doing stuff, killing their warlord, getting on their objective. You know, it can actually be part of sort of like that strategy that you might have. Now, it is a domination, which means in this objective, you need to hold 2 or more to get points. So 2, hold 3, hold more. But it is 6 objectives, so it's a little easier to do than with Skari. At least you can kind of hold 1 in your zone more often than not, and then try and just hold 1 in no man's land to get 5 points minimum. So that's pretty crazy. I think this is going to be one of the crazier missions. And then you have Overrun. So the bonus points are scored for primary as thusly. At the end of each player's first, second, third, and fourth turn, the player whose turn it is scores 2 points if they control at least 1 objective marker in their opponent's territory. So their opponent's territory is the half of the table that their opponent's deployment zone is in. So if you control 1 or more objective marker in here, you get 2 points. At the end of the battle, each player scores 4 points if they control the objective marker in their opponent's deployment zone, and 2 points for each other objective marker they control that's in their opponent's territory for a max of 8. So if you control all 3 of the objectives in your opponent's territory at the end of the game, this is at the end of the battle, so at the end of the game, it's really going to benefit the player going second, right, to like jump on objectives. You can get up to 8 more points. That's massive, right? So that's massive. That's a huge. I really want to play this. It'd be really cool to see how it works out. Then we have Death and Zeal. This is the old sort of like direct assault. And in this mission, it is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more. Once again, 5 objectives, only 3 in no man's land. So very easy to do something like Stranglehold. In this mission, you control an objective mark at the end of your command phase, and 1 or more units of objective is secured, it remains in your control. So sticky objectives, once again, however, as we saw before, only objective secured can sticky objective these objectives. And then direct assault is a secondary. You score 2 points if you satisfy one of the conditions, and 3 points if you satisfy both of the following conditions. So you control every objective marker on the battlefield, or you control at least 1 objective marker that you did not control at the start of your turn. So take an objective back, you get bonus points. Hold all the objectives on the table, you get bonus points. You destroyed at least 1 unit that was in range of an objective marker at the start of your turn. Cool. Take objectives, kill stuff on objectives, you get points. That's how the bonus points work in this mission. Pretty straightforward. I like it. This deployment zone is interesting. The fact that there's 2 objectives or 2 zones with this deployment, it's going to be interesting because this is a very you can be very aggressive with this type of deployment as well. And we're on to the last mission of the Warzone Nachman Grand Tournament. So the Warzone Nachman Grand Tournament Secure Missing Artifacts, which was previewed by Games Workshop, which means we don't really need to go through it as, because it was previewed. But it is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more. There's, once again, 5 objectives. So if you go back at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are six of the 9 missions are odd 5 objectives, and 3 of them are 6 objectives. So AKA, like, there's a lot more odd objective ones now. There you go. Warzone Nachman Grand Tournament. If you have any questions, make sure you post them in the chat. Thank you, Games Workshop, for sending me a copy of these to review. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the specific point changes. There's, I'm sure, Goonhammer and plenty of places online. If I find a good one, or I'll put a link in the description or in the pinned comment down below, where you can literally go and see all of the point changes in a spreadsheet, more likely than not, and you can see the green and red color, points that people do to show you what it has and has not happened. But I did want to talk about one thing that I'm really excited about. It might not be the most exciting thing, but I'm a huge fan of Forge World stuff. No more 3-4 objective missions. Nope, there's no more 4 objective missions, John Chavez. So Battle Lines is gone. Heavy support. The Tantalus, 280 points. Oh yeah, it went down 30 points from 310 to 280. Oh my gosh, my Tantalus just got spicy. Super excited. Oh yeah, the Tantalus went down in points. 280 points for the Tantalus. I'm so excited about the Tantalus. Oh, that's like, my Tantalus is one of my favorite models, and it's literally now the cost of 2 Ravagers put together, which is exactly what it should cost. Show Nids cough, show Nids. Like for the manual, okay, well let's go through this then. Let's see some of the Nid stuff. Like, you can't really see it, but I don't think much has changed. There's some changes, some little changes here, some little changes. I think Hive Guard went up in points. Necrons, a bunch of stuff went down in points. I wish this was all digital. It'd be a lot easier for us to, like, get and whatnot. 30-point drop. Yes. Yes. Yeah, well, Broodlord's 125 points. I don't know, let's randomly go. Hormagaunts are 6. Gene Stealers are 13. Termagants are 5. Tyranid Warriors are 17 points. Hive Guard are 40 now. Maliceptors 170. Tyrant Guard are 38. Zoanthropes are 50. Seems pretty standard. Gargoyles are 7. Biovores are 50 still. Carnifexes are 80. I don't know. It's cool. Is that a tantalizing point cost? Sorry, not sorry. Haha, John Chavez. Of course you are. Okay, we're going to call it there because it is early in the morning. You all have lives and things that you need to get done. But thank you so much for tuning in to this video. I hope you enjoy these reviews. I get the talking head style and I talk about the stuff and I put it in front of me. It's a lot easier for me to do this stuff than sort of like pre-record a lot of things, especially when Games Workshop sometimes sends them to me and they're like a day right before. So I like these like interactive chats. So if you enjoy the interactive chat, thanks a lot for watching and tuning in and getting up early with me and hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that's it. We'll come back with more stuff. Stay tuned for more battle reports. A huge shout out to all the channel Patreons, without whom none of this would be possible. You can also join the Denizen community today by checking the links down below and getting involved. There's also Skari dice. Lots of dice which have Skari faces on them. Lots of different colors and sets. And the link will be in the description if you want to get yourself a set of Skari dice. Yeah. Other than that, I've been Skari, your grateful host, and you are all amazing. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Bye, everybody. Skari out. the Dark Kin. I'm really excited about the new season. Let's go competitive.